Welcome back, everyone, to another Captain Patriot video. Hope you guys are having a wonderful day today. Today, I'm looking at Neurotic Exposed from Eric Debunks, and this guy is just an absolute tool and a feminist, which is great. I mean, that's all cool and stuff, but he's got some pretty trash opinions when it comes to comic books and when it comes to quote-unquote debunking other YouTubers, specifically in the comic book world industry. So, for example, we're looking at Nerdrotic today, and this guy just makes some points that don't really make sense, so I'm going to let the video play out. It's about 9 minutes and 35 seconds. I'll try and wait to pause it for the first one so you guys can get a grasp of where he's coming from, and then I'll add my thoughts. So let's watch.
Hey Bears, Eric here, and in today's video, we're going to be watching a clip from Katie Did's channel, shout out to Katie Did, where Mauler puts Nerdrotic Gary on the spot and exposes him as a fake comic book fan. Before we go on to watch this clip, if you enjoy this video, you enjoy the content you're watching, make sure to join the revolution, help fight back against that negative algorithm by subscribing, liking, and leaving a comment down below. We're already seeing the effects of this. We're all changing that algorithm for the better, so we're getting more diverse search results when we look up content on YouTube, which is a bad spot right now when it comes to algorithm, finding things that people are looking for. But we're making a difference. We're doing it, and you can join the revolution today by subscribing. Let's watch this clip.
Do you want to do the trailer reaction?
Let's do it.
Who's this, Gary?
Yeah, so who is this person anyway?
I'm gonna guess Polaris. I have no fucking idea.
What?
My chat was saying it's like Veronica something. I forgot her name entirely.
She's got telekinesis. That's all I know.
Yes.
Yeah, let's keep an eye on chat as well.
Okay.
What have we got, guys? Fill us in. Who is this girl, Professor X?
And if you see carefully, when the
Here is your old man Logan reference.
By the way, I want to say when Mauler said like a girl Professor X, that was like a pretty big clue on the character. And yeah, pretty funny that he picked up on that and Gary didn't.
And if you see carefully, when the
Here is your old man Logan reference.
Yeah.
I'm talking about.
Really? I thought that the giant Ant-Man skull was a reference to Quantumania.
That's what I'm talking about.
Because it was bad. I don't recognize much of anyone else. But I'm working on limited information, okay?
Popeye was there.
Gary, you're supposed to be our guy who says,
Popeye.
oh my god.
So see there, Mauler says, Gary, you're supposed to be our guy, the comic book guy, the comic book expert. Gary Nerdrotic is the comic book expert. Let's see what he says here.
Look at this. That's what you're supposed to do.
In the Marvel guy. Gary,
Yes.
anything? Any reference?
Help me out. My brain is 80% today, dude.
No, I'm literally asking a question. I have no fucking idea.
Help me out, chat. My brain is not firing on all cylinders.
Chat, fill us in, all right? Chat, you are now, what is it, new rock stars?
So the chat is supposed to fill in the content creators on stuff that they're supposed to be experts on. Now, the thing is, if I don't know something, I will just say, I don't know what this is. And I've never said I'm an expert on anything.
You know what's funny about this is that's exactly what Nerdrotic just said. He said he's not firing on all cylinders and he needs chat's help. And there's nothing wrong with asking for help. And I think that's kind of like, it's interesting that Eric is basically saying, oh, I'm not an expert on any of this stuff, but also my opinion is more valuable than Nerdrotic's because Nerdrotic had to ask for help because he's a so-called expert, but has to ask for help. It just seems like backwards. It seems like it's a little hypocritical coming from Eric's side to say that towards Gary.
But these guys, for the purpose of the kind of content they're making, they have to come across as know-it-alls on every single subject. Their opinions have to be paramount. So it's really...
Why is that? Because I don't see that at all. Like, I don't get that impression from Nerdrotic whatsoever. I feel like his content is relatively level-headed when he addresses certain things, especially when it comes to the new Marvel movies that have been coming out, and kind of digging into the quality of those new movies that are being released, such as Deadpool and Wolverine. Just looking at a trailer too, like there's been some shots in it that it just looks kind of cheap to me personally. I don't know. It's, to me, this is a great opportunity to make a huge blockbuster film. And just from the trailer alone, it does look, based off of the lighting, based off of the CGI, it does look a little bit cheap, which kind of bums me out. You know, when I think of like Deadpool and Wolverine, I want something that has the cinematic value of Mad Max Fury Road, right? Like that's something that I think of when I think like cinematic experience and truly like a work of art that people put their heart and soul and their passion into. And I'm not getting that from Deadpool and Wolverine, at least from when I watched the trailer. I'll need to go back and rewatch it again just to see if I missed anything, or maybe I was being hypercritical. But genuinely, like this entire side of, because there's two sides to everything, right? And Nerdrotic and I don't know, the people who he's talking to on the panel right now, it seems like they're more of the common opinion, which is Marvel has gone downhill and the quality of the films coming out of Hollywood have been, I'd say a majority of them have been lacking in quality. And not just films either, just TV shows. I mean, this is kind of like the culture war talk that everyone likes to talk about. I think it kind of bleeds out into all aspects of life. And this is why you're seeing Hollywood trying to implement these DEI initiatives, right? And the result is a lower quality product because their focus is no longer on the artwork. It's on the messaging that's being put inside the artwork. And people like Eric Debunks, they seem to like this. They seem to enjoy the content that's more focused on the political message rather than the story of the characters. And they're defending. It's usually people like this in defense of stuff like that. So, no surprise there. I mean, even he's got in the top right, you see Eric Verse, right? It's got just the rainbow flag on the street. I mean, that's not too much of a surprise there, I guess.
Really weird when they're shifting and act.
I'm just saying it's all like, it's an ideology. It's a philosophy. Like it's a lens that you view life through, right? Regardless of your political affiliation or who you vote for, right? Regardless of that, your political ideology is kind of like a lens, and how you view the world and how you perceive the world through that lens is going to form your opinions. And I think that you have to be cognizant of your own personal biases when it comes to stuff like this. And I don't think Eric Debunks is, like, whatsoever. I at least feel like Nerdrotic is a lot more genuine and a lot more authentic, which is also why I feel like Nerdrotic has grown so much in the last year. I think he just broke 1 million subscribers relatively recently. And then you have people like Eric Debunks who are pretty much just trying to feed off of that success in an attempt to kind of like shit on Nerdrotic, which is, I mean, to each their own. Here I am.
Like they don't know what this is, especially Gary. We'll talk about more of that in a second.
You go, did you know? In the background, I don't know what accent I'm going for.
Like a Death Rider type of business?
We saw the purple cloud from, what was the name of that? Fucking whatever.
So didn't even know references to Loki, even though they've made tons of content around that. Didn't know references to Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, a movie that they also talked about quite often. Don't know references to movies from 2 decades ago. I mean, it's really strange to me that Gary, the guy that he's on all these shows, he's being passed around as an expert. I'm actually surprised that for his own sake, he did not prep for watching this trailer on stream. I'm actually shocked that he went into this and did not prep for watching this trailer.
I mean, that could have been the intent, honestly. Like, we don't know. Like, I don't know what he was going. Like, the thing is, like, when it comes to stuff like this, I'm trying to give benefit of the doubt. When I watched the trailer, I didn't know who these people were. And I love comic books. I've watched all of the Marvel movies multiple times through, and it's just like, and I'm pretty familiar with the source material. I'm not super familiar with this character that's on the screen right now. I have no idea who that is. I didn't look it up. I didn't Google it. I don't want to be spoiled. I want to find out in the movie. So, I don't know. I feel like that might be a possibility. I just don't want to jump to the conclusion that Nerdrotic is just like because he didn't know this one character, he's somehow not an expert on the topic, right? Like, and I guarantee you, Eric Debunks knows more about comic books than I do, and that's fine. Like, I don't have an issue with that. But it's how you approach the subject, and it's how you approach the topic of saying you're trying to dismiss or diminish Nerdrotic's opinion because he doesn't know who this one character is, which to me is not like the gotcha that I think Eric Debunks thinks it is. So, yeah.
For the sake of being like the Wizard of Oz, the guy behind the curtain, I'm surprised that he did not come in with some information ready for this trailer so that he could seem like an expert, like he says all the time that he's so versed on this.
Yeah, but if he did that, it'd be disingenuous. He like, you know, like if that's what you're looking for, someone to just do the research right before they make a video or jump onto a podcast, then I mean, like if they haven't already done the research right to begin with, or if they don't already know what's going on here, then I mean, like the expectation for them to do research prior is, I mean, like that's your personal preference at that point, right? Sometimes people want to be surprised. Sometimes people want to go into something and have a conversation and learn something in the conversation rather than doing all the work and the research prior and then having pretty much just opinions based off of what they read somewhere on some article or on Wikipedia.
He's the comic book guy. When he makes videos and talks about having a comic book shop, this is what he says. This is what he does. Surprised that he didn't do that. But let me tell you why this is so telling. There's actually a few things here that I want to discuss. The big thing is that this is a product of Gary being an older guy who is no longer engaging in the media that he is criticizing. This is one of the pitfalls of that. And we've been saying this for a while now. Eventually, it's going to get to a point where stuff is coming out that they can no longer go, hey, this wasn't canon in the comic books, or this, you know, I read this when I was growing up, or this is something that I loved when I was a kid. It's going to get to a point.
What, dude, is anything canon at this point? Like, what, like, is anything actually canon genuinely at this point? Because it feels like a lot of the stuff that Marvel's pushing out is not canon and hasn't been for quite some time. Like, even when Stan Lee was in charge, a lot of that stuff too, there was a lot of stuff that wasn't canon. So I don't know. I mean, that's not like that's movies though for you. Like, you're not going to get like pure source material. You can't take a written work, even if it's a graphic novel, and turn that 100% into, without changing anything, into a movie. Like, it's just the flow is different, the timing is different, all the jokes and humor and any fills you have to do in the spacing of like the actual panels. You're gonna have to do that stuff. So your canon will change naturally. But what I don't think you should do is assign like a negative value to someone because they're no longer pointing out changes in canon when it's been so consistently done. It almost feels like you're beating a dead horse at this point if you're being like, oh, well, this isn't canon. It's like, dude, we all know. Like, I don't know. Feels pointless to point it out.
Where that's not going to happen. So we're introducing characters now that came out right after like the end of that phase where these guys were reading comic books regularly. A lot of them said they haven't read comic books in ages. Now, I'm not saying they didn't pick up a run here and there over the last 20 years where they've read, you know, this person's 4-issue miniseries or something like that. But overall, they're not reading and collecting comics regularly. So they are.
It depends. A lot of the new modern comics, in my opinion, are not worth collecting. And they're also not, I don't know. I don't see them holding a lot of value. You know, if you're a collector, you're trying to collect things that have value. You're not trying to collect garbage comic books that no one cares about. Or comic books about heroes that, you know, are like legitimately no one knows, no one cares. I don't know. That seems weird.
They're getting cultured out of comic books. I was going to say aged out, but that's not really the correct way to put it. They're getting cultured out of the comics. They're not engaging with the content that they're criticizing. And we're going to see more and more of this, where they're either going to have to pretend that they know they're no longer going to do these live reactions, or no longer going to do this kind of stuff in front of a live audience, because they're going to have to resort to asking the chat to give them information. Polaris for this character. Polaris. And then the chat didn't even really know either, which, I mean, I'm not really surprised because the people that engage with these guys don't know. If I were to...
Dog, okay, the only thing is, if you were to just watch the trailer alone, right? Because this almost is getting to the point where it sounds like Eric Debunks has done research before making this video that I'm reacting to. Which kind of like shows that, I mean, there's no way to verify if Eric Debunks knew beforehand who this character was prior to doing his research. So it's just like, this all just feels super hypocritical right now.
To ask my chat, if I was watching a trailer of like anything, and I were to say, hey chat, I don't know who this character is. Who is this? Who is this character? At least one or two people in the chat, in the live streams that I have, would probably know who that character is.
Do you know how that person knows who the character is? Okay, if they're able to watch your stream, they have access to the internet, which means they have access to Google, which means they can type in real quick while you're watching the trailer. They can quickly Google it, find the answer immediately, copy, paste, and send it to you in your chat in under 30 seconds. Okay, so that entire, like, there's someone in my chat who knows. I guarantee you they did not know beforehand, especially when it comes to more fringe characters. Okay, this is like Guardians of the Galaxy is a perfect example of this, where no one knew who the Guardians of the Galaxy were until the first trailer came out. So it's like, and when I say no one, that's the colloquial no one. It means like the general public was not aware of these characters. The general public was aware of characters like, oh, I don't know, I'll say like Iron Man, Thor, the Hulk, right? More noticeable names like that. But when it comes to like Guardians of the Galaxy, most people weren't familiar. But now they are. It's like a household name now.
I like engaging with people who are keeping up with the things that they love. That's the reality of it. With the things that they love. That's the reality of it. These guys have tapped out. They've stopped reading comics. They've stopped watching the shows. They've stopped watching the movies. At this point, they can no longer run a fandom community if they're not actually engaging with the content that they're talking about. It is impossible. This was an inevitable.
Hardly. I mean, most of this new content being created right now is less focused on the actual source material. Like you said, they're changing canon constantly, so it's less focused on the source material. So who cares? Like, you can call it Avatar: The Last Airbender, the new Netflix series. You can call it that, but when you change everything about Aang, everything about Katara, everything about Iroh, like when you change all the characters, just because you slap the name Avatar: The Last Airbender on it, but you change everything else involved, it's no longer Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's just called that. It's something completely different. So it's like, no, I'm sorry. Like, you can criticize this content even if you didn't read the source material, because this content is nothing like the source material. So again, like, I'm sorry, but that's the truth.
Inevitable thing. And this is a result of them no longer loving the stuff they used to love. And I've talked about this before, that if you find that you don't love something anymore, it's okay to move on from that and to find something else that you enjoy.
Yes, but you have to be critical about why you don't love that anymore. Okay, you have to understand why, the reason why you don't love it anymore. Did you change or did the content change? Okay, is there something different about the material now that causes you to not like it? Like worse lighting, worse writing, worse scripting, worse acting, like all of that? Like, is it okay to be critical of that and be like, this is why I don't like this content anymore, is because it's no longer true to itself? It's pushing political messaging rather than actually focusing on the characters in the story? Because that's the vibe I'm getting from a lot of the new Marvel content that's being pushed out. It's not focused on the characters anymore.
But if you dislike something so much that you're not even willing to watch it or keep up with it or follow along with it, and then a trailer like this comes out that references comic books that you're not reading, movies that you didn't watch, shows that you didn't watch, that's probably a big red flag for you to maybe start engaging with the content that you want to criticize.
You know what he's saying? Okay, Eric Debunks right here. Okay, all he is saying is that you need to consume more. That's what he's vying for. He's saying consume more media, even if the media is garbage. Otherwise, you can't have an opinion. That's his stance. He's saying, basically, if you don't like the content, it's because you didn't consume enough of it. That's his argument. It's like, eat more garbage. If you eat enough garbage, eventually you'll start to enjoy the garbage. Rather than reject the garbage and be like, I'm not spending any of more of my money on this garbage. No, thank you. I'll pass. I'll just like mock you and make fun of you. And it's just like the response from people on the left. This is a very like, it's interesting because what I've noticed is people on the left seem to have like a lack of attention to detail and like no sense of quality whatsoever. Like they can't pick out what's quality and what is not. It's very interesting. It's very interesting that like you don't have to be a comic book expert to look at the new Marvel movies compared to the old Marvel movies when Stan Lee was still here, and you can tell there's a stark difference. Okay, there's a very clear difference between the two, and it's just like having that sort of like conversation with someone like this, like Eric Debunks or like Organized Chaos, is just, it goes nowhere because they don't know how to understand that. Like, they don't understand the principles behind the artwork. Okay, they're too focused on the diversity, equity, and inclusion side of things to miss what matters, which is the content itself, the quality of the content.
Because it makes you look really stupid when someone like Mauler comes on your show. I guess this is their show, their show together, and says, hey, you're the comic book guy. Who is this person? Who are these people? What is this thing? And then Az is like, does any of this look familiar to you? No, none of this looks familiar. None of that even popped off in Gary's head. It's like, oh,
dude, this is, it's so frustrating to try and respond to this, because earlier Eric said, he quite literally said that he would ask the chat if he didn't know, but when Nerdrotic does it, it's unacceptable. It's like, I don't know. It just seems, it doesn't even seem hypocritical. It just is hypocritical.
I'm only 80%. My brain's only 80% working today. You don't need 80%. You don't need 100% capacity of your brain to recognize little things from movies and TV shows that you talk about multiple times a week, that you've criticized over and over and over again for years.
But this is a new character. We haven't seen this character yet. We don't know who she is. Okay? It's a new character. Oh my gosh. And if you haven't done prior research looking up who she's playing, who the actress is playing in this new movie, you're not going to know because they haven't explicitly told us. So it's like, dude, and this wouldn't be the first time they did like a character redesign for film, going from the comic books to film. This wouldn't be the first time they did a character redesign.
You can't tell me that, oh, I get a pass this time because of this reason, but any other time I criticize actors, directors, people like that don't know every single thing from comic books, they should know 100% before they're talking about it. And then you get on camera and you try to talk about something that you don't know anything about. It's that double standard, that hypocrisy that I keep talking about all the time. Mauler and Az actually
oh, that's ironic.
Exposed Gary here. And I'm so glad that Katie got this clip, because I can't watch 100 hours of streams from these guys. So again, shout out to Katie. Katie's got a great channel. She does live streams. She also has clips. Go over and check Katie out. But yeah, this is very shocking to me. Not surprising in the sense that I'm surprised that Gary doesn't know these things, because as we move further and further into modern comic books, he's going to know less and less. And eventually he's not going to be able to complain because he won't even know the characters he's talking about without actually reading them and engaging with them. Matter of fact,
I love this because the modern comic books that this guy's referencing are dog shit. Okay? It's like political propaganda for the most part. Like boring stories and like gender swaps for no reason, or race swaps for no reason, or turning Superman gay. It's like all this stuff is just like, I don't know, man. It's tiresome. It's like when you let your politics bleed into your artwork, it's no longer artwork. It's just propaganda. And I'm going to leave you guys with that because this video has gotten pretty long at this point. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.